Hi, Ralph.
Hi, Michelle.
This episode of I've Never Met a Woman Architect Before is sponsored by Massetti Consulting, LLC. Massetti Consulting, LLC is a California limited liability company and certified small business enterprise with a focus on program, project, and construction management. They're true advocates for their clients and offer personalized dedication to your projects. They're a small firm with big firm experience. Massetti Consulting is well-versed in conceptual project development, funding, financing strategies, design, professional procurement, and oversight, constructability reviews, and backcheck and value engineering support. And I'm here with Ralph Mechur. Ralph Mechur of Mechur Architects. Ralph is guided by the belief that a community can and should be built with the basic agreement that everyone deserves access to a safe home, a quality education, and a strong community. Ralph's work on city boards and commissions, nonprofit organizations, and the Santa Monica Malibu Unified School District Board of Education has been recognized by community and regional leaders, including the California State Assembly and Senate, the Los Angeles City Council, the church in Ocean Park in Santa Monica, and from the AIA as a citizen architect. Ralph's architecture practice, established in 1992, has maintained a focus on housing and social agency projects, including providing pro bono services for several projects that align with his focus on providing space for everyone to have shelter and opportunities for success. Ralph's focus on solutions to the housing crisis as a community leader and practitioners have led to policies and examples that can lead to the creation of a more inclusive, equitable, and affordable community. Ralph served on the Santa Monica Malibu Board of Education from 2007 to 2020. By focusing on the value of architecture and the importance of the built environment, he helped move the district from following the typical container classroom approach to K through 12 school design and teaching to one that embraces innovation in design and teaching. Under the leadership, the district adapted sustainability guidelines and a district-wide sustainability plan and educational specifications, ensuring that modernized and new facilities will emphasize sustainable design and flexibility of learning spaces. So how are you today, Ralph?
I'm doing good. It's Friday afternoon, which means things will hopefully slow down a little bit.
So I met Ralph when I worked at Appleton Mechur and Associates. I probably met him a little bit before that. I think I probably met you in like 1985 or something.
It sounds right.
1985.
Yeah.
And I can remember, one of the things that I think that like kind of the West Side architects in Los Angeles started like way before it was kind of trendy or pandemic, kind of pandemic like was bringing their children into the office and and also a lot of people working from home. And that's how I met Ralph's daughter, Jamie. And she actually babysat my daughter, Kelly. And now, how old is Jamie?
43.
43. And Kelly is going to be 31.
There you go.
Yeah, that's crazy. And I also, Ralph was one of the first people who asked me when after 3 weeks after, I had quit my job working for Gordon Poulon before, just like a week before I was due to have Kelly. And I didn't know like where I was going to work or what I was going to do, but it was just like childcare was so expensive and I didn't know. And then 3 weeks after Kelly was born, Ralph called me up and said, like, are you ready to work again? And I said, yeah, sure. I can work, and, and I was like, I mean, I knew that you would ask me to, but I didn't want to say no also. And I'd like tell moms, it's like, a lot of times if you say no once, then people will think that you don't want to work again, So it's like I wanted to make sure that I, said yes because I still wanted to be involved in the project. I still, and you need the work. So anyway, and then you referred this one project to me, and it was I think it was transitional housing for girls that were aging out of foster care
Sounds right.
yeah system. And I think it might have been called like maybe it was called Second Street or something. Anyway,
I don't know.
yeah. Anyway, there were these there were two houses, and there was one in the front and one in the back. And you said, like, yeah, they want to connect the two houses, but there were two different levels because they wanted to be able to have like one person be there to see, to kind of supervise, at one time, instead of having two separate buildings that would require there to be like two people in each building for them. And so I created these steps, kind of like Scala di Spagna steps, going from like the one house into the other house, and then with windows on either side, because I figured that the girls could like hang out on the steps, and I think that was like in 97 or 90.
I don't know. I mean, I had a lot of as you said, started my own practice in 92, and even prior to that, I had a lot of connections with people providing social services and the beginnings of affordable housing in LA.
Community Corporation, right?
Yeah.
Some of the first houses that were built, like bigger projects for Community Corporation.
Right. So yeah, people would ask me about these projects, and so since you had time and doing work, there was a good reason to see if you could do it. So I'm glad it worked out.
Yeah. No, I still remember it. I mean, I still have it. I wanted to see if they ever actually did it, because I only kind of did the design for them, and I wasn't sure whether they ever built it or not.
Right.
And so, I know that you're going to be speaking about the wildfires. Or
No.
you're involved. You're not going to be speaking about that. Okay.
Yeah. Right. I'm not the wildfires. I am working on one replacement house. In the Palisades.
But aren't you speaking at a conference? Were you speaking at a conference?
Well, I just did last week, the week before.
Yeah,
I spoke.
Yeah.
I spoke at the Design for Dignity conference.
Okay.
The AIA's housing, sort of housing focused conference about the future of Santa Monica Airport, which is a whole long story, and I'm involved with a group of people who are advocating that at least 3,000 units of below market rate housing be included in this great revisioning of Santa Monica Airport.
And you're at Santa Monica Airport, right?
I've been here for 20 years. Yeah.
Yeah. And I just spoke to somebody from another agency that was saying, they were talking about how they want to put a park there also or something.
Well, that is. So I'll try to keep it brief. I mean, the city of
you have an hour. Yeah.
The city of Santa Monica has been really started questioning the viability of the airport, sort of, back in the 1960s, even. It was started. It was a park that contained an airfield back in the 1920s, and then when World War II started, Douglas Aircraft basically took everything over and built their manufacturing plant on the north side of the airport on Ocean Park Boulevard, and built every DC-3 that was made here and took off from here. And during the war, they had camouflage netting over the airport. I mean, it was all very sort of serious stuff and all. After World War II was really the boom time for housing in the area. And the planes are noisy, and a lot of pollution from them. But over time, there's a lot of recreation. Douglas left, and they moved, down to Long Beach, or I think Long Beach, maybe. I'm not sure where they are now. And the area built up, and the airport became a very active, local airport. In fact, at one point, it was the busiest single runway airport in the country. Of course, right?
Yeah.
Lots of planes. And
lots of people coming in from the entertainment industry, right?
Yeah, and the whole area building up, and then it just, like I say, they tried for a long time, starting way back then, and it wasn't until 1984, I think, was the last time that the city, and I'm not sure, if they had much choice, signed an agreement with the FAA to continue to operate the airport, with the understanding that still looking for a way to cease its obligations to keep it open over time, and that actually occurred around 2017, I think. The city signed an agreement with the FAA that allowed it to do two things. There were three things. One, it had to remain open till December 31st, 2028, which is coming near.
Yeah.
And it had to keep the airport open and viable at that time, in that period. And it was allowed to shorten the runways by about 1,300 feet. And that pretty much wiped out 60-70% of all the jets. And the jets had become, they're all the small commercial jets were able to land here, 6, 8, 10, 12 seats. And they created a lot of problems. So that was the deal that was set up. And then, some folks were thinking, okay, well, what happens? What prior to that kind of gave the council what its thought was the backing to go do this, is that a group of people got together and put a measure on the ballot that asked the community, do you want to have an airport or a park? So, I mean, but it was an either or. And about 60% of the people voted for a park. That was in 2014. So then 2017, there's the agreement that it can close, at the end of 2028. And then the ballot measure said that the only thing that can be in the airport in the future, if the airport closes, is a park or park-like activities without another vote of the public.
Okay.
So they started, the city about 2 years ago now, hired Sasaki, which is a large international, land use and landscape type firm. And they've done this kind of work around the world, re-envisioning airports and golf courses, and they do some great work. So they sort of started this public process with lots of meetings and surveys and all. But the only thing they were asking is, what would you like in your park? Anything from a lake to ball fields.
Yeah. No, I was on the La Mesa Parks and Recs Foundation. Those would be the things that they would ask. Oh, what do you want? Like what? And I mean, even that. I mean, it's very interesting how you can segregate people even by these activities. Which like that was coming up in a lot of these forums, about what things they wanted in their park, and we don't want like that activity. Yeah, so
right.
But
it's almost 200. It's almost 200 acres. It's a large piece of property. We have some other serious issues, housing being one. You know, we are RENA numbers, our regional numbers that, you know, where we had to rezone for the next 8 years is roughly 9,000 units. 2/3 of them are supposed to be affordable. The city rezoned a lot of the boulevards and main streets, protecting the neighborhoods to be able for that, you know, possibly to be built if something came around. There's no money to build 6,000 affordable units. I mean, not currently, there isn't. So, you know, a bunch of people started talking about, well, you know, it's great to have a park, but we have a terrible jobs housing imbalance and homeless issues. It seems to make a lot of sense for us to at least discuss creating a neighborhood. You know, it can be, you want a park, you will get, you know, build a park, but maybe half of it, you know, can be elsewise. And really for me, we've all talked, including you, I know, you know, in your entire career about what is a good neighborhood, you know, what its components should be. You know, an outdoor space is key to that, and activities for kids and families. And so we put together a group that started exploring the idea of housing, you know, as part of the airport. Given where the politics were in 2000, whether we were in 25 and 22 and 4, the council, you know, I think the staff and Sasaki felt hamstrung about even talking about housing in these workshops. So we would go and advocate and talk about it, and upsetting the park only people very much. But have spent a lot of time on it, and we have a Clover Commonwealth. I can't even remember. Cloverfieldcommons.com. I think we have our website, and you know, I've done a lot of work and explored it. And it, you know, 3,000 units is easy. There are people who would put, you know, 10,000 units here.
Yeah.
And so it's a local battle about this. And anyway, I went to the AIA.
No, even in Santa Monica, it's like,
well, I mean, there are people who said, look, we've been working on having a park here for the last, you know, 10 or 12 years. And so that's what we're going to have. There should be no discussions about it. And so they're upset that, you know, that's being talked about. And at this point, we're saying, look, when you want to design a Measure LC compliant park plan, so that it doesn't have to be another election, do that. But when you do the EIR, you know, at a minimum, the EIR should study having housing as a robust component. And see what, you know, see what that all means. And so that's, you know, the city council is actually going to look at this on July 8th. And, you know, what's been more recently going on. And it's hard, you know, there've been lessons learned from Irvine and elsewhere about financing, and, you know, the city everywhere is sort of financially hamstrung right now. So they're looking for good design, you know, that is financially doesn't, you know, break the bank, because the bank is already broken. So how does it get financed? You know, what components are there? Do you put Hollywood Bowl here so that you can pay, you know, it can pay for itself and provide money for the city and all? I mean, that's one extreme end. The other extreme end is it's all just park stuff, green space and trees, and but it's in the southeast corner of the city. And so how do you get here? If you want to access the park, you drive your car. So there's a lot of issues of knitting this into the community in a successful way. And again, you know, we've got, you know, housing is going to be, you know, is the biggest issue for Southern California. And if you're going to build it, why wouldn't you take the opportunity of building it in the best way possible, which is you can do here, you know, as opposed to necessarily just we're starting to build 8, 10, 12-story buildings in downtown Santa Monica, which people also don't like. So
The same thing happens here. I mean, I was a planning commissioner here for 12 years, and there was this one, there was this huge piece of property. And what had happened is that developers would come in and they would say that they wanted to do this. And there was it was the Coleman College site. So Coleman College had been there, they had left, they had actually sold it to Church of Scientology here in La Mesa. And then the Church of Scientology held on to it. And then this developer came in, and then they said, okay, and it was just kind of abandoned. It was just abandoned. And but it was, I mean, there were trees and everything. And so really, like, people started to just use it as a park, even though there are already 13 parks in La Mesa. They just started to use this big, it was just this neighborhood park. And so then, when this developer came in and they said they wanted to do housing, a lot of the neighbors were like, oh no, we want to put like 12 houses, like 12 single family homes, and it's like, okay, you can't do that, and they say, okay, or we want, and I'm like, okay, who's going to maintain the park? Somebody needs to maintain a park. If you guys want to buy this property and have your own park, you can do that, but they didn't put like play structures and all this stuff. And, but it's like, you have to maintain a park of that. So right. What ended up, we approved it, of course, some people, they weren't happy at all. We approved it for the housing because that's what it was. And then the Church of Scientology, was all based on whether the project got approved or not, whether or not they would be selling the property. And then when they did, that's what they did. But I mean, when you don't have, and it went in, and you know what, Ralph, I doubt that anybody like looks at that and says like, oh, I'm sorry that project went in, because, it's some of the nicest housing, I mean, it was, in the area, I mean, it's not, I think that the plans just as far as like that, I mean.
What's really impacting this discussion is what people fear the most, and all of is developers coming in and just, they would love to come in and do an office park, a hotel, you name it, and people just don't want to do that.
Yeah.
And the fear is that if we do anything but comply with the park only dictate, that if there's another election, that the Pilots Association will once again, throw a ton of money in and then try to convince everybody that they're saying housing, but they really want to just develop this and make money and get people to vote to keep the airport open as is. Mm-hmm. So that's a big part of what's going on. I don't necessarily believe that would happen. I believe we can do some wonderful things here that are more than just park by itself. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of examples of Village Green, which I drove by that today, and in LA that people love, and can do that at a denser basis. I mean, it's a lot of land. It can be very low density. It can be a lot higher density, and we just need to decide, what are we willing to, if we're willing to have higher density and 5 and 6 and 7-story buildings, and it's not that large in area, but to really be thoughtful about it. So we're gonna see what happens.
Well, that's good, because I've been like thinking about it. And then of course there's the community garden that I was like, I used to have a community garden that Marina had given to me. And then I gave to my friend Lydia, and like, I asked her and I said, oh, and she goes, yeah, I still have it. And I'm like, you still have it? It's like, but you've had it for like 30 years now, or so, or at least like 25, I think. So what are your first recollections of experiencing architecture?
So the first, it's sort of funny and interesting. My dad had a brother who was successful in the garment industry. This is in New York.
Huh.
And did
and you're a twin.
I'm sorry?
And you're a twin.
I have a twin.
Right? Yeah, you have a twin. I said, and you're a twin. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Anyway, and my uncle sort of retired, or made a lot of money, didn't have kids, and retired to be a painter. The classic wish. And so
Sounds
he
like a
did
great
that.
idea.
Yeah, and it was great. He had a studio in Greenwich Village, and and he it was very modern kind of stuff. And I don't know what it was, but I think we were probably over at his house. This is in North Jersey, and I was probably 10, 11, and all of a sudden, my dad and my uncle loaded at least myself and my twin brother, maybe my older brother, into the car, and we drove into New York to go to the Guggenheim and see the current show that was there, because my uncle was sky high over the paintings, and my dad wanted to see it, so we all went there, and so here I am, in the Guggenheim, and obviously had never been in anything quite like that. So this would have been the late 1950s. It probably had just opened, not very much before that. So it was exciting.
I didn't go to the Guggenheim until the New York the AIA conference in New York in 2018, which is when I started this podcast in July of 2018. From like people that I interviewed like 5 people, and they were shorter back then. The episodes were shorter.
But and the Guggenheim had just been redone at that point? And I think, didn't they build a housing tower? Didn't they build a housing tower behind it?
The tower was behind it, but I didn't even. I saw it, but I didn't even.
For financial reasons.
Yeah,
so there we go. Right.
Yeah. Well, right. You got Central Park. Like, what are they? It's you go to a park. You realize it's interesting. The place where I grew up, they're redoing like this whole park plan, and I saw it on. It was like in my Facebook feed, and they had like 3 different schemes for this park plan, and Dormont is like 1 square mile, and like 1/4 is like Dormont Park, and then they have pocket parks in other areas, but so, and then the last house that we had was like right across from the park, but that was a park that I always went. But it's like I think people think that a park has to be huge, and it's like, really, this was like 1/4, right? It was like only 1/4 of a square mile, and I just thought that it was this huge park, right? I thought it was huge, and I go back and I'm like, it's still a pretty good sized park, so.
Well, Santa Monica is technically, depending how you look at it, park poor. It doesn't have a lot of parks. It's got some nice small parks, but they don't count the beach as park space officially. So it's not thrown in the number, and it's a regional asset. Lots of people go there. And anyway, it's a lot. There's a lot of politics involved in this, and which means that the discussion really wasn't necessarily handled in the best way to kind of really talk about it. It's sort of these things happened, and people have ownership of pieces of it, and then now, rather than having a community conversation about pieces and all that, a good portion of the community says we're good with where we are, and we don't want to make any changes. So
well,
but right, in presenting to the AIA group, which is is all planners and architects and housing policy folks, they all say, great, let's do it. And when we talk to other groups, so.
Yeah. Even just like just any of the urban design issues that are coming up from like the wildfires, and then the person on this one committee was like, oh, well, I don't want to, it's like, oh, I don't want to talk about that. Like, I want to talk about like this other thing. Like, I don't want to talk about this for homeowners. I want to talk about like this other stuff, and it's like, okay, well, urban design is like very, it's like, it's, the thing is like, okay, if we don't do it now, when are we going to do it? We're not going to be able to do it, so it's like, let's try to integrate those things in now.
Right. There's certainly,
Yeah, but of course you have to like help people replace their housing, but then, for the people that don't, or for the areas, right, that these zoned areas that aren't single family residential, I mean, right? Like, so what are three classic buildings that you like and why?
Uh-huh. Well, the first two are small, but certainly classic. The Schindler House.
Okay.
And why it's representative of, I mean, gosh, it's over 100 years ago. Um, you know, just it was exploratory in social and design and construction ways.
Mhm.
The living style was going to be with um, families sharing spaces, and and design wise, it was incredibly for its time, contemporary, right?
Mhm.
And different, and it was using tilt up construction.
Mhm.
So it was sort of breathtaking. It still is to go there. It's one of a kind. It's unique. It was exploring certain attitudes and ideas, and it did it in a very successful way.
Mhm.
And so it still has a lot to say to people. And the second one is sort of very similar, and I only live 5 or 6 blocks away. Can go by it all the time. Is Frank Gehry's house
Yeah.
here in Santa Monica is from 1978.
Uh-huh.
This whole idea that how do you again it was he in this case he was set up with the problem of remodeling a traditional house. It was on a corner, which would think helped him a lot, but a Gambrel
Yeah.
house, and um, what does he want to do with it? And he's exploring materials and forms, and ideas of those, and sculptural ideas, and just really put something together, which is which look, people love it or hate it, and a lot of people who live in the neighborhood hate it to this day. Um, but it was a way. It was very, very singular, and um, really opened up ideas about how to use materials. It's all the. I mean, we were here. You grew up. You learned all about architecture.
Oh,
In
yeah.
LA,
Yeah.
so it's part
Yeah.
of.
Yeah.
It was part of how we all came along, but um, you know, I can go by there and see little carloads of people from across the world who are there to take pictures
Oh, yeah,
because they've
exactly.
seen pictures,
Yeah.
but just
Yeah.
to see it. Same thing happens in down on Main Street where Dogtown, where the surf shop was. If you've
Yeah.
seen the movie, that's where modern skateboarding was created, was invented, all the moves and the like. So I see dads with their kids there, looking at the building and talking about it from the movie, and it's
Uh-huh.
great to have these cultural high points.
Yeah.
So
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I mean, people still, I mean, I'll say when I was like in Venice in the 90s and they were like, oh, and they're thinking like Venice the way it is now. I'm like, no, it's actually like more, I mean,
it's nothing the same
it's
in
not
many
the
ways,
same.
right?
Yeah, it's not the same. Or I was reading something and they were talking about oh, this old Gary building. And I was like, what are they talking about? And they were talking about Edgemar. And I'm like, are they talking about the one building in Edgemar that's historical? Or are they talking about the whole thing as being historical? Because, it was like the egg factory, right? Is it the egg factory?
It was an egg factory, and so I was on the planning commission in Santa Monica when that
Okay.
project was developed,
Uh-huh.
and we were just there. I know somebody who's moved his office is there, and so we went there, and I was explaining to somebody. I said it's hard for me to go back and think that it was a dogfight to get that thing approved. I mean, it was a 4-3 vote to approve that development.
Wow.
And it's small. Neighbors were worried about noise and all kinds of issues, which are still important issues, but we're in such a different environment. Density and other issues.
Yeah.
The historic building was, they actually rebuilt it.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, they were supposed to keep it up, but they didn't. They rebuilt it.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Well, let me put it this way.
sometimes you have to, right? I mean, it's like it's going to fall apart or whatever. I
It's
know
not
that,
for everything. The buildings in the back were the old warehouse type buildings. They're there. But on the street where, I don't know if it was a store where
with the ceramic tile.
yeah, that one was rebuilt. But again, it's a great little project. And today we would, if somebody wants to do something like that, we would there would be no question about its viability.
Yeah.
But like I say, it was a struggle to get that, for that to be approved. But it was.
Yeah. Ben and Jerry's. Is Ben and Jerry's still there or not?
No, they left, and there's a vegan, or is it vegan donut shop? There's a donut shop there.
Oh, okay.
But it's I think it's a vegan donut shop.
Okay. Yeah. And so what was the third one?
Third one would be anything that Lou Kahn designed.
Okay.
He's in that sense, if you're saying classical and more so, and
yes, no. I meant like iconic. Yeah,
yeah.
It's like somebody. I think David Hurt said, "Oh, you mean iconic?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, but I mean, I guess I mean classic. It's like just as far. I mean, they are classic to architects. They're classic buildings.
Yeah, just his and truth is his understanding and interpretation of so-called classical architecture and the use of geometric forms, and create space and construction techniques, and it's just really incredibly wonderful and thoughtful, and can be monumental. It's really great stuff.
You went to Penn, right?
I went to Penn in undergrad, but I did not study architecture there.
Yeah, but I mean, the architecture was still there, though, right?
The Richards Medical Lab, the Richard Medical Labs were there.
Okay.
Pretty much it. 1960s. And it had a little green space around it where we used to go and hang out. Yeah, and you could tell that. I mean, the building was very different. But it's like when I was halfway through undergrad, I had to figure out what I was going to do next. So I kind of looked at, as architecture as something where I could hopefully, be creative as well as doing some social good. Yeah.
Where, I mean, if you're a painter, I mean, an artist, like maybe if you're doing art that's going to be somewhere, but I don't think it affects as many people as architecture.
Yeah, so I might be the only person with a Wharton economics degree who had a minor in fine arts. I don't know.
Oh, was your minor in fine arts?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I
didn't know that. I didn't know that. I knew it was economics Yeah, so
I started with my electives. I started taking drawing and sculpture and art history and stuff, and then came out to UCLA.
Yeah. And you went to school at Diane, didn't you? Did you go to school at Diane?
Diane, I think, was a year ahead of me.
Okay. Yeah. And I worked on some stuff for Community Corporation with her. It was more addition remodels. Yeah, addition remodels for
on Cloverfield.
Yes, on Cloverfield.
Yeah.
That and some other stuff. I don't even know. Did they totally get rid of that project? Or, I mean,
no, that building's still there.
Still there? Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's still there. I'm on the board. We have about 2,200 units now, and we're doing projects. They're on the west side. In Mar Vista, Playa del Rey. We're kind of moving a little bit eastward. to do projects.
Yeah. And I mean, like we would do like renovations of apartments on like
Right.
2nd Street and stuff. Yeah.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
north of
Yeah.
Colorado.
There was a time that would have been what, in the 90s? Was it before or after the earthquake, Northridge?
Well, I was pregnant with Kelly for the Northridge earthquake, and that was in 94. Yeah.
So,
And so it would have been before that.
okay. Yeah. There was
Yeah.
a time. There was a time
Maybe
where
92 or something.
it could have been
91, 90, 91, 92. Yeah.
right. There was a time when Community Corp was doing a lot more purchase and rehab.
Mhm.
The financing, and like after Northridge earthquake, I probably helped them put together 6 or 7 properties,
Mhm.
that had been damaged, and people were just sold them and they were able to buy them and fix them up. But the money, we're doing one now in the Pico neighborhood, which is going to start construction shortly. But it's been difficult. I mean, it hasn't saved any money. The per unit cost is still exceedingly high, and most of the money is for new construction. So it's hard to put together the purchase and rehab, which make a lot of sense otherwise to do.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Sustainability wise.
right,
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
density, but part of the problem is the densities are lower. So we're looking at ways maybe to even now to add buildings, new construction to properties that have the room to existing,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
add new to it now to
Yeah.
increase the density.
Do you guys have that ADU rule? I know down here we have the ADU rule where even in multifamily, is that state? Is that state multifamily? You can add one per, so you can add one ADU per unit of multifamily.
Up to, I think up to a certain number, 5 or 6. Yeah, you can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a state.
And then in the city of San Diego, I mean, I don't know how far they're going to be able to go because people are getting pretty pissed, but like they're adding like 12 to 14 ADUs.
Oh, wow.
12 to 14 ADUs on a single family with a single family property. And then they're putting like 12 to 14 ADUs. Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. So people are getting kind of upset. Like at first, when somebody approached me about that, I was like, "There's no way you can do that." They're like, "Oh no, city of San Diego." I'm like, "Okay, yeah."
We need the housing. So
Yeah.
I think there are more ADU permits in the state than any other housing type in California. Like last year, of all the permits.
I think so. Yeah. Because I know that even like in the city of La Mesa, one of the people that used to be a council person was telling me that like there were more ADU permits than any other permits like right now. Yeah. Okay, so what do you like about being an architect?
We can have this conversation. Look, I like the ability to be able to create things, create space for people to use. Other than different than other professions, I think it's forever changing. So we're always students as architects because it's not just the codes that change; it's materials change, ideas change, and so it's refreshing. We do a lot of different kinds of work. From just house remodels. We're doing a mental health facility. A tiny hotel, like eight or 9 rooms.
Oh yeah.
So I guess it means I have to spend a lot more time doing research on different things and doing the same thing. But that's great, being able to bring things from different places together and and create space. And I mean, the profession has changed, and I think in some ways it's a better profession. it's it's getting stronger. It's more diverse. It is hopefully more and more. It is more and more getting involved in people's everyday lives as opposed to building skyscrapers and just airports. The big the big stuff. So
and I mean, I think I've always I definitely see the difference in LA as opposed to San Diego, that people are, people in LA, because of so many great architecture projects down there, it's this kind of, it elevated the profession that most people want to hire an architect and realize the benefit of hiring an architect, where, even when, you don't need an architect for a house, but it's you'll want to hire an architect to design your house and work with you, because, and so everybody, it's up there, people would, they're calling up architects and, they want to, they want to use an architect. It's not like you have to convince them that you should use,
Well, I would hope. I mean, unfortunately, there are enough projects that they don't. And they're easy to pick. They're easy to pick out. And that's, I think, going to be part of the problem of the rebuilding. If it, depending how it's done, and they're working on, they're trying to work on things to do that will hopefully, keep the design level high, make buildings as affordable as they can be. Whether it's through prefab, or they're talking about, I think it's through the state issue, the report last week. I think the governor's office, even this idea of potentially requiring developers, not an individual who's rebuilding their house, but let's say a bunch of developers or design build
that want to buy
companies,
up a ton of lots.
That they actually have to work together in terms of purchasing material, figuring things out, purchasing materials, so that it's they're not everybody going, just being more sensible about how an approach to be aware of everything else that's going on, so that you don't go to buy lumber and say, oh, this guy bought all of it last week. He may not need it for a while, but if you get people to, even if they're not in the same business, to work together, buy in larger groups or regionally, and we can do those kinds of things.
Well, I mean, that actually came up in this one committee meeting, and it's I don't know. I mean, that would definitely be something that architects can work together on things. It's not it's not or I mean, I think that some people have this idea that architects are oh, you should buy the most expensive thing. I'm like, what? I think that's ridiculous to pay, for some product or material or something. But, it's I wouldn't tell somebody that they would have to, oh, you have to, build, right? You have to use marble everywhere on your house. I mean,
right. No, I mean, that's a history of LA. I mean, of Southern California architecture, to be able to not do that and have the buildings, survive. I mean, it's there since the beginning of, the so-called modern era.
An opening is going to be an opening, whether, regardless of whether it's a steel window or, let's not say vinyl. I mean, but but I mean, it's I laugh. I'm okay, when I did on the addition, it's all right. I had to buy, 5 vinyl windows, and but they were just, I mean, I'm they were just so cheap, compared to, they're so cheap, and I don't have to see them all the time, and they're big, they're 3 by 5.
Well, I mean, it's things were moving in very slowly in directions. Those things would happen. I'm not sure what's going to be happening in the future now. So hopefully we'll get back on. We'll get back on track. I know everybody would like to. So,
so what would you like to say about the future of architecture?
It's look, I'm sort of a dinosaur. You know, I mean, you know, it's changing in its approach to building. You know, it's a lot of this data-based, you know, design, you know, BIM design where um, you're more efficient if you're making all your decisions early, because making them later really, um, when you've got your model and everything ready, you know, it's more difficult, you know, to make the changes. And so we all have a way of doing things. So I think it's, you know, it's, and I don't know, you know, it's just interested in how, like, the next generations see buildings and the like, and where design's going. So a lot of it, you know, it's just focused on what, I mean, you can do so many more things, right? On, you know, with the computer um, generated design.
Supposedly, yeah,
Well, I
supposedly,
mean,
yeah.
you can explore more, you know, and we're just, it's one thing to you know, use the computers and programs and all to help do things the way we were trained to do them. You know,
Uh-huh.
that's just an assist, as opposed to um, being able to, which you now already can, is to interact with the software,
Mhm.
and I mean, to me, it's still the same thing, but it's just more efficient to interact with the software and have it help you explore ideas, because
Mm.
it can take information, you know, so much more quickly. So, you know,
Yeah,
what I'm saying is
yeah,
that, you know, I sort of jokingly say that people say, you know, if you, the thing has come about, you know, who's designing the building, right? Where's the images coming? Because you can through AI, you can describe, if you can, that you can describe what your ideas are,
yeah,
and right, if
yeah,
it's got the, what, you know, what your project is, the site, what your um, attitude is going to be, you know, towards sun angles and everything. The more
uh-huh.
you can get it, it can, and if it has a graphic database,
Yeah,
it can draw from that and give you pictures of what it might look like.
yeah, yeah.
And you know, very significant firms are doing this kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Um,
But also, I think it depends on what the input is, right? I mean,
right.
like I did this one on AI with Greg Tate. Did you see that, or did you listen to
No,
it
I
at
haven't.
all?
No.
He has, like, I mean, like, he'll just do these, right? And he's an architect. I went to Cal Poly with him, and his dad was a photographer. And so his dad used to take him to all these things. And then he actually puts like people and all these things. So he'll do the like freeway housing, and there'll be like housing though he doesn't, right? He does more like parks, like freeway parks, but there are like all of these kind of parks that are on the freeway, and like just all of these things. And one of them was like something conversation. I've like put it in there before because he has like kind of these cool names for all of these renderings that he does. And oh, I had described to him like, oh, can you do a nuclear explosion, but can you have it actually become like all of the, like a field of flowers? And so he
Sure.
did that. And I'm like, and I said, yeah, I wouldn't have used those flowers. I would use other ones, but I wasn't doing it, right. It wasn't my input. So it's like, even, in my mind, right. I mean, it's going to be able to create, if you have the creativity in order to like feed it in with that,
Hmm.
feed it that information, and then you can kind of like, keep revising it until it gets to what you want, but I mean, right, it's just us being able to, to churn out those images that we have in our mind,
Right.
because a person that isn't spatial or isn't creative isn't going to be coming up with those images. I mean, they would like put in, something, and it might just end up looking like any, something any drafter could do, right?
Well,
I
it
mean,
might.
yes.
I mean, there's two things here. You know, one is, what's the future for architecture? I mean,
Mhm.
hopefully, it has a role. Um, and again, it depends on the type of project, I guess. You know, on big giant projects, it's part of, the architect is a team member. It's not running the team necessarily.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Or just a team, providing information for a project to happen. But some of it, and at that level, things, what they're going to look like and all of that, it still has to be generated, but there's, the cultural aspect. So like I can show people, shoot, the house down here. The architect who did a lot of work in San Diego, 100 years ago as well. I'll remember.
Irving Gill.
The Gill.
Yes,
Yeah,
Irving Gill.
The apartments down here that were built in 1919.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And when you think about it, what
Horatio Court,
what he was doing at the time, and it's phenomenal. But even today, 106 years later, you can show that to people and they go, "Oh, I don't like that. It doesn't look like a house to them." So as long as, we have certain attitudes, certain things are going to get done. And I think, that's a interesting part of architecture is how do you, at least for me, blend in my, things, what I would like to achieve and do it, as opposed to people who are asking me to work with them.
Yeah. That's the thing, right? If they see something and they want it to look a certain way, it's like, okay, sometimes, it's like either you're going to, make it look a certain way or they're going to go and find somebody else,
Right.
what I mean? That's why I kind of, people are like, "Oh, why is your work so diverse as far as the style?" And I'm like, well, it's like that. I'm working with the person and they kind of can. That's, and it's like a good designer, I feel, will be able to work with other things. As far as what I would want to do, it's like, I want to just design and build my own stuff. That's ideally what I want to do, which is sell it. But that requires, money. You got to find property that doesn't cost like property here in Southern California.
So it's just, it's fun to see, people are doing great work, and they're really pushing the boundaries of, and really infusing contemporary design ideas into projects, and they'll be here for the next 50 years, those projects, and or longer. So it's like, but the future, I don't know. What do you think, Michelle? All that,
what's funny? I got into it in onto architect or whatever, because I had gone on Sunday, or Saturday, I had gone to see this Neutra house. It was in Rancho Santa Fe, because there's a realtor here. I'm going to interview him for my podcast, but he's totally into mid-century modern, and he's restored a couple case studies down here, himself, with he and his wife and his daughter live. And I think they've just completed the second one or something. And then he also sells, so he was one of the realtors at this thing, and it was a Neutra house, but it had subsequent additions. And I was like, oh my God, I would love to have somebody buy that and really just, redo the thing, because one of the people was an interior designer, had added on. He was very much kind of like the interior designer that everybody, but it's a lot of interior design. They're just thinking about finishes, and so they took out all the windows that were in this house and this one, and all of a sudden, you weren't able to get any light into this room, so they had this big deep skylight, And so I was kind of walking through with this realtor, and he was telling me I said, "Do you have the plans for it?" He goes, "Oh yeah, I have the plans." He goes, "So along here were these windows thing," and I asked the person who actually she grew up in the house. So there's another realtor that is actually selling the house, and Keith was just there to kind of do, but she said, "Oh, there's people looking at the house." And it turned out it was a bunch of students. There were a bunch of students from the local community college. It's one of the people that I went to architecture school with, it's she teaches there. Steve had taught there. And I was talking to them, and I said, "Oh, so who are your instructors?" And they said "Oh, so and so." And I was thinking Ralph, that person, those people are like older than both of us, I mean, and they're still teaching there. And and I said, you know what? I just think that everybody at like age 80 should like not be teaching community college or teaching anymore. I think that you should retire. And Ralph, you would be amazed at how many people told me I was wrong. And I'm like, okay, a lot of those people are older, so they think, but a lot of them were younger. And it's like, oh, I enjoy. One of the people said, why don't you volunteer why don't you volunteer at the school? And I'm like, okay, are you telling me, a woman who is 60 who's an architect with her own firm and 3 kids, and you're going to tell me to volunteer as if I've never volunteered before? Like, dude, what are you talking about? And then he was like, oh, I have all these years of experience. And then it turned out, I'm like, wait a second, I have more years. I have like 6 more years experience than you. So it's like, I don't know, it should be interesting because, I mean, a lot of these people are actually, they were offended that I said that they should retire, even though I said, hey, it's like, if people, this person, the other thing is that this one person they were talking about, they're not even a good teacher. There's a couple of them there that aren't good teachers, so it's like, retire. You can still come back and volunteer and give your spot to somebody else that needs the job.
I've heard that.
Yeah.
Some of the stories I've heard of people taking some classes, and it's crazy. But so I'll say this. Because when all the computer stuff started, I said, we just have to wait and see and how you use the technology. So, I have young people that I hire, and they don't have they don't know how to hold a pencil, let alone draw. And that's okay. But they've done, some of them basically 90% of the time they spent in school just, doing 3D modeling, design. I mean, they were designing projects and all that.
Yes.
And even had and so, but it's the transition. You still have to, architects still, and it's what I call it's the 6-month aha moment where you go, pretty much you hit that where you go, oh, hell, I don't know anything. And where you decide that you still want to be an architect and recommit yourself to it, because what you've learned, in school, how to think, how to, make decisions, problem solve, is little about how buildings go together and providing the information that the contractor needs. So, architects, the question is if architects are still designing the buildings, then it's still providing the information, and how do that's how its future is. It can be very relevant, or it could be very irrelevant. But I think people are working really hard for it to be relevant. And I think, I think it's focused on all the kids in school today really want it to be relevant. And so they need to be taught.
Yeah.
They need to be taught by people who can, help them be successful in that fashion.
Yeah. And I mean, I still hand draw. And, I interviewed Jonathan Siegel a few weeks ago. He still draws, he still draws by hand, and then just hands it over to Matthew to like figure it out in ArchiCAD. But, and I mean, I would do the same thing, It's like I have a person that could do it in ArchiCAD for me. I have like one, I'm doing like 4 houses, and that's all in AutoCAD, which I would never do that again. But it's like I mean, as far as like using that program, I guess AutoCAD will maybe never sponsor my podcast for it. But anyway,
I don't think so. Not now.
Now. But the Revit like actually said like, oh no, you have to have a Revit person on in order, Autodesk. Well, you have to have a Revit person on that like says that they use. I'm like, doesn't everybody say that they use Revit? What do you use?
An old program. It was it's a Mac-based program. It's PowerCAD. It's sort of a long story.
Yeah.
But it's 2D, and then we use, we build models, and
it's like a rendering program or something, or
SketchUp. Yeah. And then put that through Photoshop and stuff, and it works okay. And sometimes I hire other people, and I have some people who do some work for me, and we're doing this one person, and she's Revit, and it's fascinating what she can do. I mean, getting information, we can be looking at it and talk about the design and say, can we look at a section here? And so literally just goes over, and you can just a few clicks, you can create something that would take hours to lay out, just like that. So it's it's just more, it's easier access to information to make things work, and the design software. But at the end of the day, it's still the same thing about people, how they use the space. You have to understand. I believe that we're humans in that sense, and the spaces have to work. It's not just sort of designing.
And I think that's I mean, I think that's the programming, right? Because programming really isn't taught anywhere,
Right.
and so you really have to like kind of go through. It's like, I don't even know if people even know what programming is. I know when I was like helping to write the architecture exam for the state, they're like, oh no, that's taken, like ARE does that, but I don't think they really do, like, just as far as like kind of all of these things about so a lot of times, like, oh no, we've already had the program, like we need these spaces, and I'm like, do you need those spaces? Do you? It's like, how do you, even your house, like how do you use your house? It's like, how, like what exactly do. So it's like, I think that architects are fantastic about like that is kind of like where our power or our superpowers are, right? To like be able to solve problems, but then also being able to, like programming, kind of explaining to people like, hey, it's like, I know that you come and you want something this big and everything, but do you really need, and like, how exactly are you going to use the space? And like, okay, we like totally redesign, the way that a space is based on the way that people really use it, Yeah.
You have to understand how people are going to live, if it's a house and all. But there is like, at the school district, we hired a consultant. They spend a year doing educational specifications for the district. But it's a facilities assessment first, and then it's a discussion about, what's our vision for, our district in terms of, how we're going to teach, and what is that, how do you translate that into space. So it's planners and it's architects, and and then environmental concerns, and so sort of creating a very thick book, that you can, and you can, I think that happens a lot in bigger stuff.
So,
but
I mean, even then, right? It's kind of funny when I know that one time, and I mean, I know the person's doing a lot of stuff, and like even Steve did some of the work for kind of master planning for the district the kids were working out. But when they actually had this building, I was laughing because I walked up and the window was like down here, and I said, why is this window so low? And it's like, you have to like look at people's crotches all day long. And she's like, well, it has to be accessible. And I'm like, well, yeah, but it could have been like higher, right? It's like, it didn't have to be like for it to be accessible.
They could have, like, said for the kids. I mean, I did that. Yeah. I did that when I remodeled my house, and I put windows down there so that the cats could look out. There was a bookcase, and then so we just put a clear window strip there for the cats.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, that was one of the things where I was going. Yeah,
they were happy.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have to have some fun while you're doing this.
No, exactly. Are you still at the same house? You're still at that same house, right?
I don't live there. I have the house, but I'm not there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, it's been an interesting journey. It's been very rewarding, refreshing. I know I've been able to make people's lives warmer and nicer, and the community, providing, doing housing and homeless center, service centers, and You know, if we could do a lot more of that stuff, if there was the financial wherewithal to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know how that's going, but, are you going to do anything for the Olympics this time or not?
No,
No.
I, no, no. It's like, you know, any of those things. They've got a whole new team. They're younger folk.
Yeah.
But right, the '84 Olympics. I spent a lot of time on that, and it was great. But
Uh-huh.
you know, it's sort of the ultimate event, and there was a couple of years of nonstop to be there, and I ended up, you know, having to make sure that everything at the LA Coliseum was ready. So
Yeah. Yeah.
but
Okay.
it was
Well,
great.
well, glad to have you on. Finally.
Thank you.
Finally.
Yeah.
And hope to see you later. And then I'll like stop the tape, but I'll still be here. And thank you again to Massetti Consulting LLC. Thank you
Great.
so much.
All right, Michelle. Have a good one.
You too.